You have an ongoing war of aggression by Russia against Ukraine, representing a larger threat to European security and therefore global security, and you've got North Korea coming behind to provide troops in that war.
So you're saying we got three big stinking problems you're leaving us with?
Go ahead and confirm on the record that none of that occurred on an official FBI device or on official FBI time. Go ahead and do that.
Sir, no, they did. Many of them did.
Oh, they did. Expressing my personal opinions about effing Trump and stopping Trump and impeaching Trump on official FBI phones on official FBI time. Other than that, you never cross that line.
A CIA agent was arrested for leaking classified information, and they charged him under the Espionage Act. This is a fun one because they charged Trump with that too, for documents that were his at his house in Mar-a-Lago. A little bit of a different situation here, as we'll see, but we do have the document that is requesting a deliverance of the individual charged, Asif William Rahman, charged with publishing classified materials. We'll see what the documents look like. But some background here from New York Times. They say he worked overseas. He was arrested on Tuesday, 2 counts of violating the Espionage Act. And now he is apparently one of them. A CIA official has been charged with disclosing classified documents that appear to show Israel's plans to retaliate against Iran for a missile attack earlier this year. According to court documents, the official is called Asif W. Rahman. He was indicted last week in federal court in Virginia on 2 counts of willful retention. Arrested by the FBI on Tuesday in Cambodia, was set to appear in federal court in Guam on Thursday. Now, the leak offered a glimpse into the depth of American concerns about Israel's plans and illustrated the extent to which the United States spies on even its closest allies. So Israel attacking Iran, he's leaking documents about this. A lot of people banging the Iran war drums, and we'll see where it goes. Now, the documents that were released, dated mid-October, were prepared by the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which analyzes images and information collected by U.S. spy satellites, conducts work on military operations and clandestine operations. The information is highly classified, details interpretations of satellite imagery that shed light on a possible strike by Israel on Iran, including the types of missiles, planes, and other aircrafts. It began circulating last month on Telegram. Officials have previously said they did not know where the documents were taken from, and they were looking for the source. They indicated the documents were not exhaustive and only showed bits, but he worked abroad. He had top secret security clearance, and the CIA declined to comment. All right, so here's what it looks like. A petition for writ of removal. You can see this is the territory of Guam. They're going to be trying to take this guy out of Guam, bring him back to the States. Matthew Olson at the top of this. We know he's been involved in a lot of nefarious cases. So here's what they write. They say on November 7th, the district court in Virginia issued an arrest warrant for this guy. A copy of the indictment are attached. Here's what we're looking at from the indictment. They say national security information was owned or produced by the United States government and labeled top secret. Now, it's going to be very, very vague here. So super light indictment. It says on or about October 17th, this guy, outside the jurisdiction of the United States, was in Cambodia. He had unauthorized possession. He had classified documents, and he was in possession of them, and then he transmitted them. So willful transmission and possession. They don't give us many details about what were inside those documents here, other than he possessed and transmitted them. So submitted to a grand jury, and he was indicted. There was an arrest warrant, and apparently they got the guy. Now, John Ratcliffe is going to be in charge of the CIA very soon. So this guy is coming back to lead that agency. Here is a throwback to when he was in Congress and he was going after Peter Strzok, who was at the FBI at the time. But actually, before we get to that, let's listen to Jake Sullivan. So Jake Sullivan is our current national security advisor. Obviously, he interfaces with the DNI, he interfaces with the CIA and presumably the FBI. And he got asked today, Donald Trump is coming into office. What do you think, Jake, are the 2 biggest threats to American security in the world right now as you're about to pack your bags and hit the roads?
Jake, I know you can't speak to what happened in the meeting earlier. We'll ask Karine about that. But 8 years ago, then President Obama explicitly warned incoming President Donald Trump about the urgent threat posed by North Korea. He said it was the most urgent national security threat the U.S. was facing at the time. What would you communicate to your national security advisor peer who's going to be following you in this job? What is the most urgent national security threat facing the United States today as Donald Trump prepares to take office?
Well, I would say 2 things in answer to that question. The first is that if you look out at a strategic level, the competition with the People's Republic of China is going to be defining for what the world looks like over the course of the next 10, 20, and 30 years.
I think that's right.
And so that has got to be a paramount priority for the incoming administration. And the person who's been named as my successor, the person who's been floated as the Secretary of State, these are people who have very much focused focused on that challenge, and we'll look forward to talking to them about how we've approached it and obviously pass on the current state of play. Then there's the most immediate issue, which is Iran and its proxy groups continue to take actions that directly threaten Americans and American interests in the Middle East, and that has to be dealt with on an urgent basis. Now, that's at the macro level and the micro level. In between those two, you have an ongoing war of aggression by Russia against Ukraine, representing a larger threat to European security and therefore global security, and you've got North Korea coming behind to provide troops in that war.
So you're saying we got three big stinking problems you're leaving us with? That's great. Iran, China, and Russia. Perfect. What were you guys doing these last 4 years? Thanks.
These are all issues for which we have clear approaches, working in coordination with allies and partners, and we're going to try to ensure that we pass off each of these areas to the next team in a way that is as smooth as possible.
Well, thanks for creating them, okay? When you guys came in, there was no problem with Russia and Ukraine. China is going to be a long-term counter-peer adversary, so that's always going to be a thing. And there was not the Middle East in flames, in fuego right now, like it is currently. So thanks, Jake, for creating major problems and then dumping them on the next administration. I'll have to clean it up for you. Go back to Oxford. Maybe you can teach something over there. Now, here's Ratcliffe. This is the guy who's going to be running the CIA, hopefully helping to get things in order.
The approximately 50,000 text messages that I've seen with your personal beliefs like F Trump, stop Trump, impeach Trump, go ahead and confirm on the record that none of that occurred on an official FBI device or on official FBI time. Go ahead and do that.
Sir, no, they did. Many of them did.
Oh, they did.
Okay, so 50,000, sir.
So really, no, I'll give you a chance at the end. So what you really meant to say was that when you said you never crossed that bright, inviolable line, what you meant to say was, except for 50,000 times, except for hundreds of times a day where I went back and forth expressing my personal opinions about effing Trump and stopping Trump and impeaching Trump on official FBI phones on official FBI time. Other than that, you never crossed that line. I'm sure there are 13,000 FBI agents out there that are beaming with pride at how clearly you've drawn that line. Agent Strucker, you're starting to understand why some folks out there don't believe a word you say, and why it's especially troubling that you, of all people, are at the center of the 3 highest profile investigations in recent times that involve President Trump, and that you were in charge of an investigating, gathering evidence against Donald Trump, a subject that you hated, that you wanted to F him, to stop him, to impeach him. And do you see why that might call into question everything you've touched on all of those investigations? Chairman, I'm done with this witness, and I yield.
Terrible guy. I mean, Peter Strzok is such a coward that he tried to manipulate, in my opinion, he tried to use his law enforcement position to go after his political opponents, and was both overt and covert about it. In his cabal of FBI goons, when they were sending text messages to each other, they were ranting and raving about how they were going to stop Trump, take out Trump. But then he hid it and tried to pretend like he's just an honorable FBI agent who is just following the leads and investigating Russian collusion. The guy is the worst. And MSNBC, I think, brought him on as a contributor because he's perfect for that network, which is failing. All right, so that is Ratcliffe. Very excited to have him back in charge. Excited to have Matt Gaetz at the DOJ. And we'll see who picks up the helm at the FBI so that these corrupt little goons can get rooted out for good.